I was in the 3rd grade when I discovered the magical escapes of writing. It was during a 3rd grade class assignment when I was asked to recall a dream. This was a no-brainer. The same ferocious monsters had been chasing me for years in a reoccurring nightmare that symbolized my childhood. Straight from the pages of Maurice Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are, I'd been riding the treacherous waves of dark waters for years, fighting off monsters and trying to stay afloat. Except my dad was disguised as the monster, and Max's sailboat was the small bed I shared with my mom and baby sister. It was my job to protect them, and I couldn't. As I sat at my desk, my stomach churned with dread. Fear and uncertainty had intricately woven itself into every stitch of my life so far, and writing about it would surely cause an unraveling of sorts. Being forced to recall those drunken nights when he would beat my mom bloody or humiliate her into submission were more than I could bear. As I allowed my mind to drift into a ponder and prance, my wrist began to swing and sway with my pen, and the ink waltzed across my page in a shattering memory dance. In the echoing distance of the sliver moon lies the deep abyss of the midnight sky. Darkness awaits, drunkenness awakes. The lingering captor of a churning angst, these were the nights when the wall clock knew, when the hands of time stood still, and life as I knew it ceased to exist. All tangibility suspended into mid-air, frozen, motionless, petrified. His strength would overtake my body, but my mind flew free. Nothing could stop me, not even he. Up I would fly, past the deep blue sky, through the green rolling hills, into a world whereby the monsters danced and sang and pranced as we swung from the trees in a wild rumpus rant. And into the night, the moon shined bright as we carried on to our heart's delight. But then over yonder came the morning sun, and I knew it was time for our fun to end. So down I would fall through the deep blue sky, past the rolling green hills as I said goodbye. And up I would rise with the morning sun and lay wait to the awful of what my daddy had done. When I was a little girl, I dreamed of one day becoming a veterinarian. I wanted to drive an old pickup and live in the country and have 11 dogs. I was very specific about that number, as 11 was the year I kissed my childhood crush, Casey, in a game of spin the bottle. And 11 was the year I started junior high, which was the same year as the 49ers beat the Bengals in the 1989 Super Bowl. And 11 was the year I finally found a way to mask the pain of the dark secret I had been carrying for years. I'd found drugs. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." I was weak, I was vulnerable, and I was his perfect prey. You see, in drugs, I thought I had found a solution. I thought I had finally found an answer. I thought I had finally found a way to black out the heart-wrenching memories that my mind continued to play. I thought that I could erase the life of an abused girl. But trauma will attempt to rewrite your story in permanent pen, and it is not easy to erase. So I dropped out of school in the 9th grade. I'd already been in juvenile hall a few times. I was pregnant by 15. I had 2 kids by the time I was 19. And at 20 years old was the first time I tried to get clean and stay clean. You see, I really wanted to be a good mother to my kids, and I tried my best. I got heavily involved in AA and NA. I went to meetings regularly. I was the secretary of area service. I was working my steps, and I put together 5.5 years clean. I put myself all the way through college, graduating with honors. I got offered a job at a local accounting firm, and it was a job that this whole class had competed for, and I just worked so hard all these years to get there. And I was so proud of myself. I was set I was going to beat the odds of teenage motherhood. Mm-hmm. But 3 days before my graduation ceremony, I relapsed. And on the day of my graduation, a day that I had looked forward to for so long, I was on stage and I'd been up for a few days and I couldn't stay awake. And I still graduated, but I never showed up to my first day at that new job. And within a year, I'd lost everything. My house, my car, my kids, and I'm sitting in jail on a felony charge. And I know that there's people in here relate to that, and you're like, what just happened? Like, how did that just happen like that? And I didn't know it then, but I do know it now. And the answer for me was shame, unresolved shame. And like I said, I didn't know it then. You see, I didn't think that I deserved success. I didn't think that I deserved happiness. And so because of that, my addiction swooped in and took me down hard and fast. And when I start using, I become a completely different person. I'm extremely scandalous. I just become a completely different person. It's hard to put into words how it affects me, so I wrote a poem about it. Deep is the draw to the breath of the dragon. You can feel the burn melt the flesh on the nape of your neck, yet there you still linger. Caressing the flames of the poisonous tongue as the sparks scar your skin, you linger in the enticement of his mythical snare as your dreams become quicksand in a hypnotic stare of seduction on a crumbling cliff. Each swing brings you closer to death's final wish, yet you hinder in the throbbing of his fire-breathing rasp. Just one taste of relief, but you know it won't last to tame the torment and make it through another long night, for daylight brings the craving of an excruciating bite of the vicious rattler, constricts your waning soul. Its poison-potent venom tricks your mind until it's gone beyond remembrance. Your mirror bears your shame as you dance in line with demons on a snowy summer. Dangling down your mouth drop lies your shattered glass rock pipe as you gasp for the escape from the anguish drugs have brought forth like a battle cry in a warrior going down. I'm still shuddering in disbelief as I can still hear their sound. Mommy, please stop using. Won't you come and get me, please? But their cries remained unanswered for many years as I lingered in the underbelly of the dragon, unable to break free. I spent the next 15 years in and out of jail, mental hospitals, rehabs, living in 6 different states, 20 different cities, causing wreckage in every place that I went. You see, the guilt and shame behind losing my kids was so painful that I used it as an excuse to keep using. You see, I hated myself. I really hated myself. It wasn't until years later that I realized that my self-hatred went a lot deeper than the guilt over losing my kids. At the root of that self-hatred was the feeling of responsibility for the sexual abuse that happened to me as a child. And because it was my own father, it was very convoluted and shameful, and it caused me to develop a core belief system that I was fundamentally flawed and dirty and bad. And the shame behind that created a vicious cycle of self-punishment that would span over many years, over my whole life, causing me to self-sabotage. I still struggle with it. You see, even when I put together that 5.5 years clean time and worked a 4th step with a sponsor, I didn't talk about the sexual abuse. I kept it a secret, not on purpose. It was just at that time I was unable to process it. And that corroded me, and it kept me stuck for many years. And today I share openly about it because my dad sexually abusing me is his burden of shame to carry, not mine. Amen. And I hope that my openness about it will help other people bring that darkness to light.
Amen.
Now, I'm not here to blame my lifelong addiction on this trauma. That is not the message I'm trying to portray. But I think that many treatment programs focus on behavior modification. You know, stop lying, stop stealing, don't pick bad relationships. You know, instead of dealing with and trying to guide people in healing the shame that created a suffering so deep that a person is willing to go to such drastic measures even giving up the people that they love and their kids and everything that we do in the name of addiction. You see, nobody chooses addiction. Nobody grows up wanting to be an addict. And while not everybody who's had trauma experience becomes an addict, every addict that I know that has gone to the depths that I have has had trauma in their life. And that, in my opinion, is where the key lies, right there. And that is where God comes in. But building a relationship with God is not easy. There is no magic button. For me, there was no burning bush. And it makes it harder when you've had an adverse childhood. It makes it harder when every relationship you've had has been abusive. It makes it harder when you've never been shown love before, when you don't trust anybody. All of those things affect your relationship with God. It makes it harder when you're a person whose addiction has progressed to the point where you are living on the streets as a homeless person, where you are shunned by society in a way that only homeless people who have lived on the street know. So all of these things have an impact on how someone views a loving God. And then there's the issue of being angry at God, which brings me to that core question that so many of us have had, like, why does God let bad things happen? Why did God let those bad things happen to me? Which brings me to my next poem, which is about that, and it's about being angry at God. God, I reached for you in the burn rays of the scalding summer sun, when his fiery wrath became the breath of my scarlet letter song. I looked for you in the aftermath, my mother's unconscious stare, her tears wet my young body, a burden no 3-year-old should bear. I begged for you in the backbend, my father's dance of disregard, as he leaped the lair of liars on his bloodlust landmine floor. Where were you, God, to save me on the night of the wailing moon? The shattering of my innocence, a red crescent doom. You failed me, cried my sorrow, my blood-let anguished rage, as I slid into the downslide of trauma's insisting claim, when reality lost its grip and I turned to drugs to ease the pain. Fragmented by the falsehoods in a land of forget-me-nots, I was caged by the falling angel and lost in the magic release from agony's assault. Captured in the enticement of drug's seductive slur, I snaked that black fandango, a nodding Nelly junkie girl, and now stolen from the sunset was the glory of your song, as my gaze now focused downward to that needle in my arm. Imprisoned by the mental warfare, psychic torture, rerun rant, come feed me now, I'm hungry, demands addiction's cackling chant. Enslaved by the seducing sorcerer and his poison pistol kiss, what I thought was supposed to love me almost killed me. God, I plead with you, don't let me die like this. See, it's in the prayer of the dying desperate when God finds his way in. In the song, 1,000 angels come and heal her broken wing. For the power of God's grace is formed strongest in the weak, a mounting force to back the weary and a light to guide the meek. So in my final hour, as death lay at my door, a voice called out my name, redeemed my soul from Hellgate's floor. Ruby, my sweet daughter, come to me. And you don't have to fight no more, as I will love you like the daddy that you always wish you had. And I'll hold you in my arms, release your pain when you are sad. And in those sullen moments, when memories bring despair, and the lies inside your head cast doubt on my truth, did God ever even care? I will come to you in a whisper and remind you that I was always there, that the survival of your struggle is now the spirit of your strong, as your triumph manifests the lyrical language that creates your poetic song. So back to the question, why does God let bad things happen? So that is the $1,000,000 question, right? And we can chase that question forever, and we may never get an answer. Or we can make a perspective shift and start asking, okay, God, All these things have happened, but what do I do with them? What do you want me to do with the hand that I've been drawn? Show me what to do. Guide me. And that is part of the third step for me, turning my will and my life over to the care of God. And for me, in the very personal and customized way that God works, he's helped me find my voice and healing through poetry. And it started a year ago when I was still living in the homeless shelter. I would wake up in the middle of the night with these images and words in my head and a strong urge to write. And I made the choice to listen. You see, God will show up in our lives, but we have to be ready to listen. And that can be scary for a lot of people, but in my opinion, that is where the key to healing is. And this is just the beginning. So I get to come and share. This for me is very healing for me. So when I'm standing in front of an audience and reading poetry, and I can tell that it's touching people's hearts, in that it's healing for me, and that's part of my process. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity. We will know peace. And that is what is happening for me. But it is still a process. I'm still working on it one day at a time, just like you. Another thing I learned was that my ideas and my concept of God says a lot more about who I am than it does about who God is. So when I start marginalizing God based on my own faulty belief systems, I have to remind myself of that. You see, the truth is that God is steadfast and unchanging and loving and trusting and powerful and beautiful and miraculous. And part of our jobs as Christians in recovery is to remind each other of that. That no matter how far down the scale you have gone, your experience can help and benefit others. That God loves all of us, and we can be forgiven no matter what we have done in the past. So tonight I speak to everyone, but I especially speak to the people who, in their addiction, have chosen drugs over their kids repeatedly. I'm speaking to the addict who has stolen from every person in their family. I'm speaking to the addict who has promised to come to birthday parties and never shown up. I'm speaking to the addict who has left their children home alone in the middle of the night so they can go get high. I'm speaking to the alcoholic who drives drunk with their children in the back seat. I'm speaking to the alley dwellers and the gutter drunks who have lost everything in the name of addiction. I'm speaking to the college graduate who gave up her life to keep a needle in her arm. I'm speaking to the chronic relapser who has turned their life over to Christ and cannot stop relapsing and losing everything over and over and over again. I'm speaking to the person who could not stop using while they were pregnant. I'm speaking to the addict who has sold their body for a $20 bag of dope. I'm speaking to the addict whose kids were mistreated because they were high and not watching. I'm speaking to the person who is holding a secret so shameful that they have vowed to take it to the grave because they are convinced that no one will understand. They are convinced that they are alone, that their secret makes them unlovable and unforgivable and uniquely different than everybody else in this room. Now, everything I listed a minute ago I have done, and I am not proud of it, and it hurts. But I share openly about it because I feel like God has called me to do that. 19 months ago, I hit the worst bottom of my life. I was homeless, strung out, and in desperate need of help. And I showed up at the Modesto Gospel Mission. And here I am 19 months later now. I graduated there, and I've got a job at the church that I go to. And I'm following my dream with this poetry thing. And so I'm going to close it with one more poem that was the reason why I got invited here tonight. And this is a poem called God to the Broken Woman, and it's a conversation between God and the broken woman. And this is surrender your life to follow his lead. God's love is all powerful. You must trust and believe. But how do I do that? What does that mean? This love that you speak of, God, I've never even seen. For I'm the fear child. My life was a fight. My daddy in the daytime became my monster. At night brings on thunder and storm winter winds, a force of destruction so powerful. It will rip away at every one of your limbs like the dry branch. Brittled in pain, who cracks in the heartbreak every time someone says, I love you, they then walk away. Don't you know, God? I'm the lone one that no one would claim. For they say damaged is the tree that's been watered in shame, and broken is the girl who so desperately needed your help. I screamed out your name, God, and you never came. So when they ask if I trust and believe, well, I don't even know what you want me to say. Nothing, my child. I know the extent of your pain. I know every word of your story, every desire of your heart, for I wrote them. I have them engraved like your name on the palm of my hand, and there is something I want you to understand. You can come to me with your anger. You can come to me with your pain. You can punch, kick, and scream. God, it is you that I blame, and I will sit here and listen and love you just the same as I did on the day you were born, as the day you gave your life to drugs' unwinnable war. I would love you the same. As there is nothing in this world that you could do or say to change the way that I feel or make me go away, for you are my daughter. And that means something to me. You are my lost sheep, the one I chase down and claim. I'll leave the others behind to help you find your way, simply because I love you. And I chose you. And you have not been forgotten. You have not gone unheard, and you are not alone, for I am right here. I have always been here. I don't expect you to believe that, for I know the deception that wets every single one of your tears, and I want to make this message unmistakably clear. The bad things that have happened to you, that part was not me. That was not me. You see, free will gives birth to authenticity and beauty, and gives the freedom to choose, and some use it for good, and some misuse, and many, many others abuse, for this is a fallen world, and I am so sorry you were hurt. I know every detail of your pain, and I promise you, if you come to me, the tragic part of your story will not be in vain, but you must come to me. I don't know how. You see, God, I'm just trying to make sense of all that you said, because it's in direct opposition to every voice in my head telling me I'm unlovable and undeserving of love. I've built an entire belief system on that. And now you've come to tell me that I've been misled, that the self-hatred I've suffered was all based in a lie, that I really am worthy and there is a purpose for my life? Because if that is the truth, do you know what that means to me deep down inside? Like my glimmer of hope still miraculously shines, and I could stand in the mirror and look the world in the eye and walk down the street with my head held up high, and I've never had that before. So overwhelmed with an emotion right now I can't even describe, like my heart has found a piece of the puzzle I've been searching for an entire lifetime. I've been looking for acceptance and love, and no matter how hard I tried, it was never enough. When you try to heal pain in all the wrong places, no matter how bad you want it or how desperately you chase it, you will never find it there. You'll never find it there. And that broke me. That broke me deep down inside, and after so many years of the same pain and anguish, I wanted to die. And it was in that moment, when God came and said, rise up, my child, for I need you alive. You are my strong one. You are my warrior princess. Your time here is not done. I know the plans I have for you. My plans to prosper you have only just begun. Come to me, daughter. And your life will be a representation of my glory, as I will take the ashes from your trauma and mold your life into a beautiful story about the girl who overcame adversity and used her experience to help lead many other people towards me. Come to me, daughter. And your greatest struggles will be the catapult on which you rise. The pain of your past, now a tool to help so many other suffering lives. Nothing is wasted in my world, daughter. Come to me, trust me, give me your heart. It's not always going to be easy, but even just faith the size of a mustard seed, that is all you need to start. Yes, you will fail many times, but I will not let you fall. We will build a life together. Rise up, my daughter, for your name has been called. Thank you.
Oh my God.